Somewhere in Tehran tonight, an 86-year-old man is thinking about Plan B. Not because an enemy army is on the outskirts, not because a coup is rolling down the boulevard, because the streets are no longer afraid. And according to a report in the UK's The Times, citing an intelligence assessment, Iran's supreme leader may already have a contingency route prepared. A tight inner circle of 20 names, documents ready, private aircraft on standby, and a destination that says everything about who he trusts. Moscow. Now, pause right there. We do not have independent confirmation that any escape plan is activated. But the fact that this story is circulating and being repeated across multiple outlets tells you what kind of moment Iran has entered. Because this is not 2019. This is not 2022. Something broke. All 31 provinces are burning. The numbers are still coming in, and they're staggering. This story is moving by the hour. If you want the clean version of what's real, what's reported, and what's rumor, subscribe and hit the bell, because the next 72 hours could redraw the region. And if this video helps you understand what's actually happening, hit the like button. It makes a difference. Now, let me show you what's happening on the ground right now. As of today, January 12th, Iran has been offline for over 84 hours. That's 3.5 days of total darkness. NetBlock says connectivity is at 1% of normal levels. 1%. And it's not just internet. Phone lines are dead. Starlink, which was the last lifeline for activists, the regime activated military-grade jammers on January 11th. 80% of satellite signals are now blocked. The government says it's a technical problem. Outdated equipment, power outages. Nobody believes that anymore, because while they cut the lines, they kept killing. HRANA, a US-based human rights monitoring group, released updated figures on January 11th. At least 544 people dead, 490 protesters, 48 security personnel, 8 children, more than 10,600 people arrested and transferred to prisons. But here's the thing about those numbers. They only count what can be verified. Iran International, one of the few outlets still receiving footage through Starlink users, reported something far darker. Eyewitnesses who went to the Qalibaf Forensic Center south of Tehran looking for missing family members said they saw more than 400 bodies, rows of them, transported by pickup trucks. One video clip showed a label, photo number, out of 250. That's one location, one morgue. A doctor in Rasht told Iran International that a single hospital received 70 bodies in one day. In Karaj, 44 bodies arrived at Madani Hospital, another 36 at Game Hospital. Medical sources across the country are reporting the same thing. CNN spoke with a doctor in the northeastern city of Neyshabur. She described what she saw. Military rifles, at least 30 people killed. Among them were children. A 5-year-old child was shot while in their mother's arms. Hospitals in Tehran and Shiraz have suspended non-urgent admissions. They're overwhelmed. One woman told CNN she saw bodies piled up on each other when she went looking for a relative. And it's not just Iranian forces doing the killing. Iran International reported that on January 2nd, approximately 800 members of Iraqi Shia militias, Kataib Hezbollah, Harakat al-Nujaba, others, were sent into Iran to help suppress the protests. Foreign fighters, Arabic-speaking mercenaries, shipped in to shoot Iranians. That tells you something about the regime's confidence in its own security forces. To understand why this is different, you have to understand how power works in Iran. Iran is not governed like a normal state. The supreme leader sits at the top. But the enforcement engine underneath him is what matters. The Revolutionary Guards, the Basi, the intelligence services, and the web of state-linked money that keeps them loyal. We're talking about $100 billion in assets. Construction, oil, shipping, banking. They're not a military, they're a mafia with a flag. Here's something most people don't understand about authoritarian regimes. They don't survive on ideology. They survive on 3 things: money, fear, and the perception of inevitability. The moment people stop believing the regime will last forever, that's when everything unravels. And Iran is entering that phase now. This wave didn't begin with a speech. It began with panic. Late December, Iran's currency collapsed to 1.5 million reals per dollar. It was 32,000 just 5 years ago. Prices were jumping, shortages were spreading, and then something happened that Iranian leaders fear more than student protests. The bazaar moved. On December 28th, the Grand Bazaar in Tehran, the same merchants who bankrolled Khomeini in 1979, shut their doors. They stopped selling. They stopped paying. And when the regime sent enforcers to force them open, they refused. That matters because the bazaar isn't just an economic symbol. It's a political force. It helped fuel the revolution that brought this regime to power. When the bazaar signals no, it's not just a protest. It's a crack in the economic spine of the system. Within 72 hours, demonstrations had erupted across all 31 provinces, 186 cities, 585 documented protest locations. Students, workers, pensioners, women, ethnic minorities, Kurds, Lurs, Baluchis, all of them in the streets. And the regime did what it always does. It tightened the grip. Internet blackout, phone disruptions, mass arrests, and violence. But this time, cutting the internet didn't end the movement. It made it angrier, because the message people took from the blackout was simple. They're not trying to restore order. They're trying to hide what they're doing. And then the government tried to buy time. A monthly cash handout, about $7 per person at market rates, was announced as relief. Think about that. $7. That's not relief. That reads like an insult in a country watching its purchasing power collapse. When a regime reaches for symbolic handouts while the streets are on fire, it's usually a sign the leadership is boxed in. Then came the rhetoric shift. On January 9th, Iran's Attorney General made an announcement. Anyone participating in protests would be charged as moharebe, enemy of God. Under Iranian law, that's an automatic death sentence. They're not even pretending anymore. This isn't crowd control. This is a regime fighting for survival. And that's when something else happened. Something that hasn't happened since 1979. Protesters started chanting for the return of the Shah. Now, that doesn't mean Iran wants the Shah back as a unified political plan. It means the public mood has crossed a line. People aren't bargaining anymore. They're imagining a different system, and that is dangerous for any regime. In any revolution, there's a gap between when people stop fearing the regime and when they start believing in an alternative. That gap is chaos. What fills that gap determines everything. And right now, one name is filling it. Reza Pahlavi, the son of the last Shah of Iran, has lived in exile for 45 years. He's been a symbol, a figurehead, a voice in the wilderness. But on January 8th, he did something different. He called for nationwide protests at 8 p.m., simultaneous, coordinated, and he made a promise: I will be with you soon. To be clear, Pahlavi has no army, he has no party, he has no infrastructure inside Iran, but he has something the regime doesn't: an alternative narrative. And when the public starts chanting an alternative narrative, it forces security elites to do the only calculation that matters. Do I go down with this ship, or do I find a way out? That is the real question. Not whether people will protest tomorrow night, but whether the enforcers will keep enforcing. The next day, X, formerly Twitter, changed the Iran flag emoji. They replaced the Islamic Republic flag with the lion and sun, the pre-revolution flag, the symbol of a different Iran. That's not a policy decision. That's a signal. The world is watching, and the world is choosing sides. On January 9th, Khamenei gave a televised address. He called the protesters vandals. He said they were ruining their own streets to make the president of another country happy. He accused them of being mercenaries for Trump. Then he made a promise. The Islamic Republic will not back down. Nobel laureate Shirin Ebadi, detained by the regime in December, warned on January 9th that a massacre under the cover of a sweeping communications blackout was coming. The evidence suggests she was right. Now, zoom out. Washington isn't just watching street videos. Washington watches pressure points, oil revenue, banking access, sanctions enforcement, and the regime's ability to fund proxies. Secretary of State Marco Rubio spoke with Benjamin Netanyahu on Saturday. Officially, they discussed Gaza. But according to multiple reports, the real subject was Iran. Because if this regime falls, every calculation in the Middle East changes overnight. And Iran's timing is brutal. 6 months ago, Iran had Hezbollah. It had Hamas. It had Assad in Syria. It had a network of proxies that could strike anywhere in the region. Today, Hezbollah is gutted. Hamas leadership is gone. Assad fell in December. The proxy network that took 40 years to build is in ruins. The June war with Israel, the 12-day war, destroyed what was left of Iran's air defenses. They're not projecting power anymore. They're exposed. On January 13th, something unusual happened. U.S. military aircraft began restocking ammunition at bases across the Middle East and Europe. Not routine resupply, surge capacity. The New York Times reported that President Trump has been briefed on military options against Iran, not just nuclear sites, government buildings in Tehran, cyber operations, infrastructure. Then the Wall Street Journal published details, strike packages, target lists, timing scenarios. Here's the thing about that leak. It wasn't an accident. When the Wall Street Journal gets that level of detail, it's because someone wanted it out there. That's a signal, a message. We're ready, and the Iranians heard it. On Saturday, the Speaker of Iran's parliament, Mohammad Bagher Qalibaf, stood before lawmakers and issued a warning. American bases in the region and Israel are legitimate targets. Then he said something that got Washington's attention. We do not consider ourselves limited to reacting after the action. That's not defensive. That's preemptive. Parliamentarians chanted death to America. State television broadcast it live. But here's the problem for Qalibaf. He's making threats with an empty hand. Now, let's talk about the Plan B story and why it matters even if we can't confirm it. According to the Times of London, Western intelligence agencies believe Khamenei has a contingency plan to flee if security forces fail to contain unrest, reportedly to Moscow, with a list of 20 names. Family members, senior officials, inner circle. Again, we do not have independent confirmation this plan is real. We do not know if it is actionable. We do not know if it is disinformation or a leak meant to shape perceptions. But here's why it matters anyway. Because even the rumor changes behavior. Rumors like this do two things. They spook elites, and they embolden streets. Security officials start wondering, if the top is thinking exit, why should I take the bullet? Protesters start wondering, if the top is thinking exit, maybe we're closer than we think. That is how systems start to crack. And here's what makes this different from the Shah in 1979. The Shah fled to Egypt, then Morocco, then Panama, then Mexico. He spent his final years being turned away by country after country. Khamenei has somewhere to go. Russia would take him. Putin and Khamenei have grown closer over the past 3 years. Drones for Ukraine, sanctions evasion, shared enemies. That's not speculation. That's strategic alignment. The question is whether he waits too long. Now, let's connect it to the bigger picture. 3 weeks ago, Nicolas Maduro was the president of Venezuela. Today, he's in a federal detention cell. His security apparatus collapsed in 72 hours. The generals who protected him for 20 years made a different calculation. President Trump posted about it on Truth Social. Then he posted something else. Cuba, make a deal before it's too late. That's not diplomacy. That's a warning. And here's the pattern. Venezuela fell. Iran is shaking. Cuba is watching. 3 regimes, 3 dominoes, one already down. The Cuban security agents who helped protect Maduro, some of them died in the operation that captured him. The oil pipeline Cuba depended on, it's at zero. Havana is running out of options, and Tehran sees it. Here's what history tells us about moments like this. Regimes rarely fall from a single blow. They fall from accumulated pressure, economic collapse, military fracture, loss of legitimacy, until one event becomes the tipping point. The question is never, will it fall? The question is, what's the tipping point? And right now, everyone is watching to see if this is it. There are three scenarios being discussed in Washington right now. 1. The regime cracks down hard enough to survive. Mass executions, total information blackout. They've done it before. 2. The Revolutionary Guards fracture. Some units defect. Some commanders cut deals. The regime collapses from within. 3. External pressure tips the balance. Strikes, sanctions, asset seizures. The combination of internal revolt and external pressure becomes unsurvivable. No one knows which scenario plays out. Not the CIA, not Mossad, not the regime itself. But everyone knows something has changed. 46 years ago, an Ayatollah came to power on the promise of revolution. Tonight, his successor is 86 years old, increasingly frail and, according to intelligence reports, planning his exit. The streets are burning, the merchants have turned, the proxies are gone, and somewhere in Tehran, the phone calls continue. The question isn't whether this regime is in trouble. The question is, what comes next? And that story is just beginning.